Welcome back. Illegal sand and gravel mining has become a growing environmental and safety concern in Namibia, causing land degradation, damage to riverbanks, and posing serious risks to communities and wildlife. To better understand the impact of this practice and the measures being taken to address it, we're now joined telephonically by the Deputy Director for Environmental Management and Regulation, Saima Angula. Good evening, Madam Angula, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Roundup.
Thank you so much for having accorded the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism an opportunity to air our concerns with regard to illegal sand mining.
Well, perhaps we'll start with, talk to us about the current state of, environmental compliance in Namibia, particularly now regarding sand and gravel mining.
Thank you. I must say the situation on the ground is a serious one. It's a very serious concern to the ministry. Although sand mining is one of the listed activities in the Environmental Management Act, Act number 7 of 2007, that cannot be undertaken without an environmental clearance certificate. It's still taking place across the country without the proper authorization, such as the consent from the traditional authority in whose jurisdictions the area under which the sand mining is being undertaken, and also then without the environmental clearance certificate from the Environmental Commissioner.
Why does illegal sand and gravel mining continue despite existing environmental laws and regulations?
The Environmental Management Act and its regulation came into force in 2012. And in the process of the implementation of the Act, we have experienced challenges with regard to, for instance, the lean structures, the insufficient resources, and the poor coordination among the officers, ministries, and agencies. The staff of the ministry that are responsible for compliance monitoring are very few, and additionally, they are headquarter-based. And this has contributed to the challenges that we have experienced with regard to the compliance monitoring. Additionally, it's also worth mentioning that poor coordination have also resulted in the sand mining being undertaken without the environmental clearance certificate. For instance, you find that the proponent or the applicant have been issued with a consent by the traditional authority to mine sand. However, before obtaining the environmental clearance certificate or before approaching the office of the Environmental Commissioner, they commence already with the sand mining. And then that obviously leads to poor enforcement, because it might be that since it's illegal, it might not be known to our office, and the community might not have reported it to the office of the Environmental Commissioner.
Madam Angula, explain the process, just explain the process to us that's required, for an environmental clearance certificate, and why it's critical to have that before mining activity begins.
The Environmental Management Act regulations, to be specific, Regulation 5, points that the duties of the proponent or the developer is to appoint an environmental assessment practitioner to manage the assessment process. That now includes the registration of the interested and affected parties, so that they are registered to be given an opportunity to raise their concerns with regard to the proposed development, in this case, proposed sand mining. And they are then required, the environmental assessment practitioners are then required to develop the background information document that will need to be shared with the interested and affected parties, so that at least they are aware of what's likely to come from the project. And with the background information documents, the assessment practitioners are then also required to register the project with the Environmental Commissioner's Office through the Environmental Clearance Certificate online application system. They are required to develop the scoping report, through which they are expected to consult with the members of the public, have meetings with them, so that they are then given an opportunity to raise their concerns, as I have pointed out earlier. And then to develop the environmental assessment report and the environmental management plan. Environmental management plan is basically the operationalization of the environmental impact assessment. This is now where the mitigation measures to lessen the impact, to lessen the negative impacts and to strengthen the positive impacts associated with the sand mining. These are all then submitted to the environmental commissioners, reviewed by the environmental commissioner, and if the commissioner is satisfied, then the environmental clearance certificate can be issued. Obviously, on the system, there are compliance monitoring dates that are built in there so that this can be monitored. However, as I indicated earlier, the lean structure at times might not be able to comply with that.
Well, on the note of this having a negative impact, talk to us about the environmental and safety risks that illegal sand and gravel mining poses to communities, livestock, and just ecosystems.
Well, that goes to an extent of damaging infrastructure such as roads, resulting in poor access to people's houses and other places like schools and hospitals. It also damages crop fields, like the people are not able to cultivate, or at times they are left with a very small piece. And this also affected the food security in some homesteads. The other thing is also that in some instances it's that excavations left behind by sand mining, once they are filled during the rain season, filled with water during the rain season, then obviously some people and some animals unfortunately ended up drowning in there, resulting in the loss of lives. It's also important to say that sand mining also destroys habitats for biodiversity. For us, whatever is there, whether small, it's very important because that falls within the mandate, or that's where the mandate of the ministry resulted from. So the habitat destruction affects both the fauna and the flora. Additionally, it also degrades the soil, resulting in soil erosion. At times, it's also done in riverbeds, resulting in the erosion of riverbanks and then the destruction of wetlands. And in all these that are being destroyed, life is in there. And that's basically the concern to us as a ministry.
Just lastly, Madam Angula, talk to us about how the ministry is now strengthening enforcement to curb illegal mining activities across regions.
The ministry, as you may be aware, have developed the sand mining regulations, and we are in the process of finalizing the consultations that will start on the 26th of January until the beginning of February, somewhere there. So it's basically that we have expanded the mandates, especially that of the traditional authority and that of the local authority, so that they play a key role in regulating sand mining in their areas of jurisdiction. So it's important that the members of the public attend the consultation meeting so that they can raise their concerns, they can give their inputs with regard to the draft regulations that the ministry has developed. The sand mining intends to ensure that sand mining is undertaken with proper authorization, consent from the traditional authority, permit to mine sand for a certain period, and obviously to obtain an environmental clearance certificate following the environmental assessment process through which the ECC is issued.
Well, Madam Saima Angula, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.